sometimes in the 60s in the United States and sometimes in the 80s in Europe, the rest of Europe, the marketing, the commercial business is taking over engineering and art, and it's taking over all the design process and production, meaning let's do what people want. People have no culture, people have no special needs. It's okay, we'll deal with that, let's just design things and go along with it. And so, we go from this in the 60s, that's what explains this change of philosophy, of paradigm, which drives us from this to that, from this to that. I have an incredible image of the first time the Concorde was presented to the public, Le Bourget, that's in 72. And the same year, the first Airbus is presented to the people. This has an enormous success, this has no success at all. A few years later, Concorde disappeared, maybe an Airbus has totally taken over the market. This is a time in the 72, same year that the Concorde flies for the first time. We have this type of architecture design. And we go to this. I'll come back to this notion, to architectural absolute pornography. Into the metaphor of powerness. This, of course, phallic symbol that any tower brings. It has to be thinner and higher and more powerful. We're getting to a level of literalness which gets totally unacceptable. Incredible thing is that Concorde and World Trade Center were designed and built the same year, and World Trade Center collapsed in 2001, and the Concorde collapsed also in 2001. So probably an entire spirit of the 60s, 70s, best designs ever made, and icons died in this horrible year of 2001. I will narrow my purpose on the issue of design. 60s, 80s. From Saarinen to Philippe Starck. Known with this object he has on his head. I will talk about Philippe Starck a little bit. You all know this object. It's supposed to be a lemon juice thing, where you put the glass under there and have the lemon get into it, and the shape of the legs means that the juice doesn't come outside. Anybody has tried to use this piece knows it's absolutely impossible and it doesn't work at all. So every single piece like this that was made is just on the shelf as a piece of art, a bibelot, and absolutely not something useful. I can speak, I'm starting with furniture in regards to the what's the name of it? The Cranbourne School in Michigan, where George Nelson, Charles Eames, Bertoya, Saarinen were all working together and learning to make the best design objects. Ray Eames made this house, you may know, the case study houses process, together with some other architects of the same generation, into the same spirit. This house is using as less steel as possible. It has incredibly narrow, I don't know if you see it well, and thin beams. You see the beams, which are here. You almost can't see anything. You see the columns are really hyper thin. This makes a super cheap, super comfortable, and very beautiful house. Accessible for a reasonable price to everybody. I want to put this house from the late 50s, 60s in perspective to the 90s house by Philippe Starck, which I think was not sold. This is for sale. It's a series house that you can buy in the catalog, which was hardly built. I think he sold a few of them, and this is the last prefab house in a catalog, which is anything but the lightness and the intelligence and the Charles Eames stuff you have. This you're supposed to be able to stick any place and enjoy. To understand Philippe Starck work, you have to know about a group called Memphis in the 80s, in the 70s, late 70s, 80s in Milano. and its guru, Ettore Sottsass. Ettore Sottsass took exactly the counterpoint of Charles Eames and the previous design from the 60s, 70s I've shown you, to pretend that industrial products in design would be unique and pieces of art. This is a shelving, this is another shelving, this is a chair. So those art objects want to pretend they are like sculptures in order to make their prices very important, regardless to their comfort and the use you can make of them. You can't sit on those things, they're absolutely uncomfortable. But you can look at them from your... So it's all scale. Memphis designed some furniture, also some objects. And this is a 90s design by Philip Stark. So it's a boiling device. And this is a stool. You're supposed to be able to sit on it. You see that's the preoccupation of how you can use it, how this industrial product wants to pretend it's a piece of art, and which is for sale at incredibly expensive prices, is, let's say, cheating with us. This is where the notion of authenticity is really turning bad. Philip Stark never, he's marketing his own person, his own name, for selling glasses, for example. We know he never designed, he just bought the Ickley, who manufactures the glasses, bought this patent for these hinges here. Philip Stark only designed the shape of the glasses here, not the whole thing. And to the worst, we come to have a very poor technology made in China, working 1 times out of 2 that you have to throw away almost immediately, and but yet you have a funny box around, distorted plastic, and just the fact that you can say it's branded by Philip Stark makes it sold. So we are in the illustration, the complete renouncement to any artistic or engineering quality for just branding. I'm not saying Philip Stark is not talented. I've seen some, for example the Delano swimming pool in Miami is one of the most brilliant hotel architecture and design I've ever seen. It's really brilliant, really something fantastic. But there's the dark side of it, which makes him sometimes a collaborator to business, to bankers. I wanted to show you really many things. I just decided to show you several scales. No urban design projects, unfortunately, we won't have time at everything. It all starts in Bordeaux in the late 90s. I'm working for OMA, and we have this client who lives in this beautiful house, who has a terrible car accident. Probably people know this house, that was quite widely published. But this guy has a car accident. He hits a tree, and he finds himself totally paralyzed. The legs, the arms, but still he has some potential movements. For example, he can open a drawer, he can close it, but he can't turn. So what I do, I go to his place, and I live there with him for a week, and I study him like an anthropologist. And I also study how he goes to bed, how he eats, how he can clean himself. But I also study the relation to his family, to his children, who suffer from the situation a lot, to his wife, to his sex life, also we talk about it, to all these things. I become kind of a mute, silent observer. And the funny thing is that it's not so much about functional or technical capacity, which worry him. What makes him really sad is that he knows he's come down to a very simple space, house, b-dimensional, flat, and he wants complexity. He wants the complexity of an old house, and he wants the complexity of the universe. So what we do is we do 3 houses. There's one here, and the third one is the result in the middle, and each of them has some very different characters. I'll go quick. The house is partly sunken into the ground. This is why you will have everything that has to do with the ground. You have the kitchen, you have the wine cave, you have the laundry, you have all those technical things. Then you have the private house hidden there, he needs to feel secure. That's why there are only those windows, I will show them later, for him to be very protected from people looking at him. And then you have the house in between. Very complex because we have a very bad foreground here, framing to the view in the back. And he is moving through the house, not in an elevator, but in an office. This is his desk. The desk is mounted on an enormous hydraulic machine. Very complex because there's no wall, there's no barrier. And it moves up and down along the bookshelf. The bookshelf is 10 meters high. And because he's a journalist, he needs to be able, it can go up again, it can go up to here, to pick up the book on top here. So with moving very little, which he can't do on a wheelchair, he can access to all his books. This is the views on the house. Other ways to, that's just architecture, making some connections between the levels, very constrained, very claustrophobic, to emphasize the feeling of freedom that you get when you get into the box house. And here you see all the topics we designed specifically for him. That's a sink where you can go with a wheelchair. So it has to be very narrow. It does not exist in the market. This is a tab which is very long, and he can move like this to open water and close it. It means the guy can brush his teeth and wash his face alone, which he could never do before. The house is a little bit like practices the medical machine, which is completing the body. This is a window that's with a complex counterweight in the back that just with a movement he can open and then he can slide it down back. And all the work we do on all these devices to make it useful. That was my first side project, which also led me to the next one. Mr. Tomke here, Swiss industrial who invented the swatch, bought this house here and asked me to go check it out to see what we could do with it. This is what is traditionally built in France when you're poor, and when you're rich, you get these infamous, disgusting pink colors, patchworks of neo-regionalistic crap. Maybe you have the same here. It wants to look like an old farm. It's just a nightmare. And he bought more or less a house that looked like it. It's a stone house. And so I went to live in the house for 4 days, to see how it went. And I saw that this is 180 degrees view, very nice on the horizon. Here you have an ugly house on the neighbor, you don't want to see. But mostly you have the path, public paths, some tourists, which get along in front of the house all day long and make it not very comfortable. So they had this vegetation so that they can go and hide behind it, and the tourists don't look at them when they walk there. But then they don't have the view anymore. So it was. I told the client that if we do something with the house, we have to be radical. We have to do something. Just not. He wanted to change the floor and make a bigger window, but then we have to do a lot more than this. The first thing I proposed was to create the artificial horizon here, just to have a relation to the sea and to frame out the tourist path, which is under there. And this industrial guy actually is working into his bath. That's how it goes. He takes a half-an-hour bath every day, where all his ideas get together. So the bath and the water was the main topic of the house we had to develop. That should be here. For the rest of the house, well, yeah, that was the second bath. I will come back to it. For the rest of the house, we decided to frame out the ugly house of the neighbor by making some, like a painting, a framing on the sunset for when you sleep, a framing on the sunrise here, sunset here, so that's a whiskey alcohol place, and noon somewhere in the middle where you open those windows, which you can see here. That's the concept design. Room, living, whiskey, and that's how it does shape according to the typology of the house, because we decided to keep as much as possible, just adding another floor. So this is the existing house, this is what we call a political facade, looking at the street, because we don't want people from the street to know what is happening in there. So and that's the new house, the green house. I come to see the old house there, here. And this is how the bathtub developed. We still have the idea of the artificial horizon, which is framing out the tourists, but also the ugly house here is sinking under the horizon, so you don't see it anymore. And the advantage when we propose to have the water all around is that any type of railing or barrier is not needed anymore, and so you can be lying there and have a direct relation with the horizon without having anything disturbing you. That's what we did at the end. So you see, this is the political facade, the old house. And here we have the pool and the island here, where you come up with a stair in the middle of the water. And we made the pool black, because black is like the endless sea. So you only have the reflection of the sky on it, and it actually becomes really blue, like the water of the sea is blue. And when the water is not blue, the swimming pool is not blue either. This is the interior with the caves and the framings I was telling you about. This is the whiskey framing. This is the daylight. You will see the big glazing here is one piece of glass, 6 meters by 3. That's the biggest you can get laminated. It can come down like this, and you can force it down into the ground. There's no children. This is bedroom side. Yeah, here you see, this is columns, it's structure. And here you see the big glazing, and you can easily understand how it comes down like this. To stop as a rail here, or to go all the way to the ground, to be totally open to the view. This is the bath. That was the second house. Other type of business that has to do with authenticity is food. The ugliest restaurant in Marseille, this is it. Look at it. And here behind, you see the stairs. There's a garden, but it's used as a dirt space, as a garbage. This here, and the project we designed, coming up the hill like this, is proposing the street is here to display the kitchen into the facade. Then when you go to eat here, you have, and you go into the kitchen. Here I tell a little story. I went to a restaurant once in Marseille, and came Gérard Depardieu in the restaurant, and so the guy said, "Do you want to sit here?" He says, "Nah!" And so he went into the kitchen, and he began to open all the pots and to look at everything, and he was smelling into the cooking pots, and he was saying, "I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that." And I thought it was great. It's a restaurant where you come in, you see the people cooking, and then you get to say, "I want to try this, I want to try this, I want to try that." So that's what we try to do. Of course, it's technically super complex because of smell, because of air refreshment, because of sanitary issues, because of garbage, because of fire regulation, because of all this. It was a very big work, but at the end it looks like this. That's the same facade that you had before. This is a place to smoke, and here you walk in, well, that's the client, and you see this. You walk here, you can sit and eat here in front of the guy who is cooking and just giving you the plates for you to eat. And then you see everything happening. Very complex piece of stainless steel, one piece without the joints, 7 meters long, it's 3.5 tons. We have to read the floor so that it doesn't punch through down on the floor, etc. View to the street, the room in the back, glazing. And the most important, because actually the success of this restaurant is not much the kitchen, not much the glass roof room in the back, it's this place. What happens here is that's where you wait. We know that exactly. There's a bar and a lounge, and everybody wants to be staying here because everybody is touching one another, because the waitresses are passing by saying sorry with the plates. and everybody wants just to be very close and stuck to the other people before they go to eat. So that's actually when you want to make a successful restaurant, make a very narrow entrance where you get everybody to wait and touch one another, and you're sure it's going to be successful. Last project I think I showed you. This is what we found in the suburbs of France everywhere. Very cheap architecture, and then very disgusting communication, advertising on top of it to say what's in there. A client comes and asks us to design one steel box like this to play indoor soccer in it. You know, I'll make it one. To play indoor soccer. The boxes are plexiglass and very bad. So the first thing we think is worse with this sport is to open the facade and have people play outside for some reason. Say that. Of course, it's complex because we have to redesign the new box out of glass and not plexiglass, with a great attention to detail, to ventilation, to the strength of the glass that people can punch through. This is the interior where people will hit the facade, they won't hurt themselves. The door also is a complex detail. But all this makes a concept that finally gets to be normalized by the federation of the sport. This is the site. We just come out of the highway. The site is here, and we have a beautiful view to the mountains. This is looking south. This is a beautiful commercial architecture of the neighbor, and that's our concept. A facade to be seen from the highway, and a facade to see out. Like this, we don't have to close the box, but only display the game happening in it with people moving, and this animation will replace any signal or any text better than anything. So you can see the 6 soccer games there, and you can see the restaurant happening here with the kitchen. This is from inside. You can at one point decide to look at everybody, and then you can get to look more closely and carefully at one game. And this is the restaurant to look out. So this is south, meaning this is north. You don't have any problem of sun radiation and heat because it's facing north, so you don't need sun protections. And here we did this 6-meter high facade that's totally moving on this edge here with this detail to make the room of the restaurant actually almost a plaza. And we design it like a real plaza. Real plazas are always on the public space 2 things. There's exhibitionists, people who are coming here to be seen, and the foyer, the people who come here to see the people who want to be seen. And when you want a successful public space to work, if you remember this, it always more or less works. Other facades, tribute to the Centre Pompidou. We didn't get the inflatable, so it went like this, just with the escalator, finally. And also tribute to Centre Pompidou. I won't talk about this, but actually you can't do another way. The program is so unstable and such projects to do that you can't actually do design. The ducts is so complex, this is the only way to deal with it. But we like it. Very last project, very shortly. It has to do with art. We were commissioned by Centre Pompidou some years ago to design an exhibition in Brazil. And I think in terms of what you can do for art, the question of being authentic has never been so precisely refined and an issue. It means that this is Brancusi, this was the name of it, never mind. The quality of these sculptures, which the artist wants to communicate a very precise and refined topic with, you have to understand, to emphasize, and get the design to follow it. This is a Picasso's biggest piece of art ever made. I think it's a scenery topic for an opera. Here, yeah. Here you can see this light movement here. So yeah, it's Modigliani. Here we design an artificial sun that will move very slowly, like this, and the shadow on the sculpture will change very slowly. So you have the impression it's alive, you have the impression you have a figure of someone moving like this, only because the light is changing. Very big pieces also to display. This is a tribute to Lina Bobardi with abstract work that works pretty much well together, but which we don't want to pollute with all the information about who made it, when, the date, and things. And when you turn around, you have all the information on the back. So you do the exhibition twice, once in the sense of images, and the other way around in the direction of the expositions. Giacometti, all the study drawings, and the piece in the middle. Vasarely, and we're more into this car painting into the 70s with some music to the thing. And I'll finish with this one, it's Tingeli, which I loved, which is called Hell, where just a display of the light can reveal an incredible game of shadows. I stop here. Am I fine?